Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the St. Tammany Parish Planning Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, July 11th, 2017. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Ms. Cassavine? Mr. Lauren?
Here.
Mr. Richardson?
Here.
Mr. Richard?
Here.
Mr. Willie?
Here.
Mr. Manella?
Here.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Fitzmaurice? Mr. Doherty?
Here.
Mr. Drum?
Here.
Mr. Randolph?
Here. It says there's a map.
We have a quorum.
It says there's a map, but there's not.
This time we respectfully request that all phones and electronic devices be silenced. If you wish to appeal any recommendation of the Commission, appeals cards are to our right. If we wish to speak in front of the Commission, we would respectfully ask you fill out a speaker's card for our record. Each side will be provided 10 minutes with 5 minutes of rebuttal. And lastly, at the end of every case, if you wish to discuss it any further, we would ask that you leave the building, as if you go back into the foyer area, it does echo into the chamber. This time we would ask you to rise with an invocation by Commissioner Randolph, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Lauren.
Gracious Father, once again we come to you to say thank you for all the blessings you granted unto us. We thank you for being with us and guiding us with your grace and mercy all day through this point in time. We thank you for this meeting of this planning committee. Lord, bless us as we make decisions for the parish and those that's on the agenda. Bless those that we represent. And Lord, we ask that you bless families here and everywhere, and all of our military personnel and veterans, especially those that lost their lives in Mississippi today. And all these blessings we ask in your holy name. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. In our packets are the minutes of the June 13th, 2017 meeting. If you'd please review them, and I will entertain motion. Commissioner Dougherty.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Dougherty, second by Commissioner Randolph. Any further comments? Please vote.
Wait. 9 yeas and 0 nays, motion carries.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. The public is encouraged to speak on behalf of or in opposition of any of the cases. Staff, are there any cases that are requested to be postponed?
Yes. That would be preliminary approval. For the only case on the preliminary approval, Whispering Forest.
Is that all you have, Rob?
Are there any others?
Yes. We also,
You're on.
okay. Enter the right-of-way, inter-parish right-of-way St. Landry Street and Low Davis Road, and also inter-parish right-of-way River Highlands Boulevard and Echo Street.
Okay, we'll read these into the record, and we'll ask for a public comment, and we'll bring them to the commission. Postponement, entering parish right-of-way, servitudes and easements. Entering parish right-of-way, St. Landry Street and Low Davis Road, Ward 3, District 2. Request to enter parish right-of-way for the purpose of laying fiber optic cable. The debtor, Southern Light LLC, Parish Council District Representative, not available. Postponed at the June 13th, 2017 meeting, and they are requesting postponement. Is that for 1 month, Jay? Yes. Postponement for 1 month. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Davis.
I'll make a motion to postpone.
Motion by Commissioner Davis to postpone for 1 month. Second by Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Dougherty, any further comment?
No, thank you.
We have a motion by Commissioner Davis to postpone for 1 month, second by Commissioner Randolph. Please vote.
Nine yeas and 0 nays, motion carries.
Entering Parish right-of-way, River Highlands Boulevard and Echo Street, Ward 3, District 5. Request to enter Parish right-of-way for the purpose of laying fiber optic cable. The debtor, Southern Light LLC, Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Reichert Toledano. This was postponed at our June 13th, 2017 meeting, and again, they're asked to postpone for 1 month. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Lauren.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to postpone for 1 month by Commissioner Lauren. Commissioner Dougherty.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dougherty. Any further comments? Hearing none, please vote.
Nine yeas, 0 nays, motion carries.
Preliminary subdivision review, 2017-680-PP, Whispering Forest, Ward 1, District 3. Developer owner Bob Hessen, engineer, Aero Engineering and Consultants. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable James Red Thompson. I was just doing the two that were postponed. I'm just going through postponements. Thank you. Thank you. Again, we're just going through the postponement cases. Developer requests postponement until the next meeting, which would be our August meeting. Staff, any comments? Is there anyone in the public who wishes to make comment? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
I'll move to postpone to the August meeting.
Motion by Commissioner Willie to postpone until August. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Any further comments? Seeing none, please vote.
Nine yeas, 0 nays, motion carries.
Thank you. That'll clear all the postponements. Back to entering parish right-of-way servitudes and easements. Entering parish right-of-way, Homestead and Desire Streets, Ward 3, District 2. Request to enter parish right-of-way for the purpose of gaining access to property. The debtor, Steadfast Development LLC, Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable David Fitzgerald. Staff?
Yes, this resolution is for the permission to enter parish right-of-way, specifically the unopened portion of Homestead Street and Desire Street in Robindale subdivision for the purpose of gaining access to property.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Marone on behalf of Steadfast Development. I represent Mr. Donnie Jenkins and Mr. Kenny Adams, who are the principals of Steadfast Development, who are here with me this evening. They acquired just about all of the outstanding lots in Robindale subdivision, which is an older subdivision, lots of record, where a portion of the infrastructure was put in, but the remainder was not. So after acquiring those lots, their intent is to put in the infrastructure first, the Homestead Street and Desire Street portions that are before you. It is also their intent, since they're builders, to also build out these lots. We would simply request for your approval to enter the right-of-way so that we might put in the infrastructure for these streets and the adjacent drainage in accordance with all of your ordinances. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that any of the commissioners might have.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? If you come to the podium. Okay, we're speaking just in favor at this time, ma'am. Anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition?
Hello,
You can
I'm
pull- you
Lynn
can-
Fritcher.
You can pull that down, ma'am.
I live like 2 blocks away from this new development.
Excuse me, ma'am, if you'd state your name and address for the record.
Lynn Fritcher, 20477 Highway 36, Covington, Louisiana, 70433. I live on the corner of Manor and Highway 36. I'm about 2 blocks away. There is sometimes when heavy rains, 3 and 4 feet of water at the end of Manor Street and Walker. They need to take care of the existing drainage in that area before they even start any kind of new development. The water drains from Garland Extension and Sunrise Park, and there's also an 11-acre wetlands tract in the back of my property, and this all travels down the back of my property and runs over Manor Street. There's like 3 areas over Manor Street that the water runs over, and at times we have 3 and 4 feet of water at the end of the road. All this needs to be taken care of in a comprehensive drainage program put together for the area before they even start building new streets. It's just going to compound the issue. All the ditches and drains and everything going to the Abita River haven't even been cleaned since Katrina. The water bottlenecks up by us and doesn't flow to the Abita River. We need help with the drainage before they start. I'm asking that they slow down this new subdivision process so we can get our drainage, the existing homeowners there, fixed before you all go through. I have a closed ditch at Highway 36 where the water doesn't flow at all. I'm asking for you all to give us help in the drainage before you compound it with new houses. It needs to be engineered or survey or whatever needs to be done to take care of the drainage before you all start building new houses. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Sir, do you wish to make a comment as well?
Hi, Daniel Rector, resident of 72323 Manor Street since 1963. I've seen the entire neighborhood be developed. I'd like to comment on Mr. Shane's comment first off, where he was saying that they want to tie into the infrastructure and build off of that drainage. It doesn't exist. I have a river that flows next to my house. I drain 500 acres at least, all the way back to St. Landry Street, right next to my house, and the land has depressed because of the amount of water there. It's ridiculous. And recently there's been some work going on, but it's just gotten worse, actually. What they did was they made an express ditch on Walker Street, which comes out of Sunrise subdivision. The flooding issues in that whole area are horrendous. So my situation has actually gotten worse with the recent work. So there is nothing to tie into. There's only one ditch that crosses 36. It goes behind the Abita the Abita Brewery. And Ms. Lynn is right. None of those have been cleaned since before Katrina. And another problem is that it seems like the parish and the state are having a problem working together, because when you bring water across 36, that whole area has to drain to the Abita Creek. There's no way for it to get there. There's 2 places where it crosses 36. One is about 20 feet towards Covington from St. Landry Street. That hasn't been addressed. It's stopped up. It doesn't really drain. The watersheds don't break with the ditches. So much work. So I'm asking the parish to table this until the engineering department can figure out what to do with this, because it's really a mess. There's pictures that have been sent to the engineering department, and I know they're working on it. I know they're looking at the big picture right now, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, Mr. Marone, 5 minutes rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Manella. Certainly, we are sensitive to the existing drainage issues in the area. We are aware of them. But as Ms. Fritchard pointed out, her request is that there be engineering done before we do any work, and that is precisely what your ordinances require. We are not here tonight to create a new subdivision. Rather, there is an existing subdivision. We are asking only to be able to enter into the right-of-way for the purpose of installing the street and the roadside ditches. However, before that can actually happen, we do have to submit detailed engineering drawings to your engineering staff that identifies the existing conditions and makes sure that this project in its post-construction condition does not adversely affect the neighbors and that we meet your ordinances. So this hearing tonight does not give life to a new project. The project's there. We're only asking for permission to enter into the right-of-way. That permission, if granted this evening by you, comes along with the obligation to do exactly what Ms. Pritchard mentioned, and that's to comply with your drainage ordinances and have detailed engineering drawings with topographical data submitted and approved before we do any work. As I said, we are aware of the concerns in the area. Before this meeting tonight, we met with your engineering staff. We looked at the area in general to make sure that we had a good understanding of what the situation was on the ground there and that we were going to be in a position to address that from an engineering standpoint before we ask for a work order. And we are confident that we can do that, and we know that we will not be entitled to that work order until we have done that. So with that said, again, the request tonight is simply to enter the right-of-way. We ask that we're able to do that so that we can prepare and submit the detailed engineering plans pursuant to the ordinance that you're considering, the resolution that you're considering this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marone. Yes, ma'am, and yes, sir, you're welcome to have further, yes, rebuttal.
Thank you very much again for this opportunity to speak. So the problem with what Mr. Shane is saying is the engineering staff doesn't even understand it yet, so he can't possibly understand it. So there's a lot of things to figure out with it. There's not much elevation changes there, so it's very critical, whatever you do with that. And I'm asking that you table and don't approve this right now because some of it is wetlands now. I grew up there. It wasn't wetlands. And some of it has become wetlands because of the development. Like, for instance, at the corner of St. Landry and Highway 36, for the expansion of the Marquee mini stores, there were over 50 truckloads of dirt brought in to fill that, to raise it. I questioned somebody to go out there and look at the retention ponds that they built and measure the building. I'm a geologist, and there's no way that that even comes close. The hydrology of it is just like ridiculous. So I'm asking that you keep this table because there's a lot of things to figure out. They need to get more water to the Abita Creek, which may mean putting another culvert across 36. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. As Danny mentioned, all this water from Garland Extension behind the storage, Marquee Storage, is all running through my property and going over Manor Street. There has never been any drainage work done in that back area between the properties on Highway 36 is an 11-acre wetland site, and then Sunrise Park, which goes over to Robindale, okay? My property's becoming a wetlands because of this, so please table this subdivision so we can get the drainage fixed in the old areas before you start a new one. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question of staff. The petitioner mentioned that they obtained the remaining lots of Robin Hill subdivision, right? Robindale subdivision. If they are granted this permission to enter right away, thank you. If they are granted this permission to enter right away, and they put in the new drain, especially the drainage I'm concerned about, how do they match up with what's existing already in that subdivision that's already been in use? Do they have to improve those, or or how they match them up? Because some's gonna be new, matched up to old stuff that's been there.
At this point, we don't know how it's going to work out. That's going to be up to the developer's engineer to submit plans for us to review and approve once it gets the approval to enter the parish right away.
Okay, Paul, you have any kind of preliminary idea on that?
Well, we know that there is some existing infrastructure that's out there, some of which is in, some of which is partially in.
Is it working satisfactory, or?
Not all of it, it's not. And so we are aware of that, and part of our plan is going to be to make sure that the areas that we are impacting with our flow, not necessarily exactly where our footprint is, but with our flow, is properly addressed. So some of those deficiencies that exist now will be cured, will have to be cured as part of our plan.
To make the new stuff work.
That's correct. In order to make the new stuff work, we're going to have to fix some of the deficiencies that exist out there.
Okay, that's what I'd like to hear. Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Dougherty.
Yes, Paul, on, the gentleman spoke about Highway 36, and that's a state route, and I'm fully aware at times it's very difficult to work with the state to get them to do improvements. Is it your client's intent that if the state refuses or drags their feet in getting the improvements made, that they will go forward and get improvements in place?
Well, without knowing what would have to take place, if anything, at Highway 36, it's difficult for me to say for sure. But we know that our water, by and large, is going to be making it down to Highway 36. We also know that we've got to retain that water, which is not being done now, partially on some areas, but that's not working very well. We'll have to have adequate retention as well. So what I would tell you is that once we have determined what has to be done there, we will do that as part of our project. If that means improvements at Highway 36, if that's what the report says, then we recognize that we'll have to deal with that in order to bring this project online, and we would intend to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Willie.
Since this is a request to enter parish right away, I'm going to move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Willie to approve. Anyone? Is there any second? Commissioner Dougherty.
Did you get a second?
No.
I will second it.
Second by Commissioner Dougherty. There any? No, you may not, sir. We have closed it to the public. We give the public adequate time to speak, and then once we bring it to the commission, unless the commissioner would specifically request another comment from the public, then we will close it. No, you do not. That was already provided. We have a motion by Commissioner Willie, a second by Commissioner Dougherty. Please vote.
With 7 yeas and 2 nays, motion carries.
Thank you. Minor subdivisions, 2017-712-MSP, a 10.45 acre parcel into tracts 1 and 2, Ward 2, District 3. The owner, and I believe this is a correction, James and Keisha Costello. It does show in the agenda James and Keisha Moore. Surveyor Robert Barillo and Associates, Inc. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable James Red Thompson. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, the reason why a public hearing is required for this is that both parcels do not meet the minimum lot width for the A1 suburban zoning district. The owner is proposing to create 2 parcels from a 10.45 acre parent parcel. From a technical standpoint, both proposed parcels are not consistent relative to the required minimum 300-foot lot width from front to back, with both parcels tapering down to 225 feet and 291 feet respectively. However, because both parcels have over 380 foot of public road frontage, and the tapering down effect of the parcels is not extreme. The staff does not have any objections to the proposed minor subdivision request. However, if the commission decides to approve this request, a waiver of the regulations are required relative to the lot width issue, and a two-thirds majority vote of the full membership of the commission, 8 members, is needed in order to approve pursuant to section 40-100, waiver of regulations of ordinance 499.
Thank you. You're the petitioner.
Yes, sir.
If you state your name and address for the record.
My name is James Costello, and I'm at 111 Melody Drive, Metairie, Louisiana.
And your reason for the request, sir?
I wanted to subdivide it and sell off one parcel and keep the other parcel.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public, and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Yes, since both tracts are over 5 acres, I don't have a problem with it. I move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Willie to approve. Commissioner Davis.
I'll second that motion.
Second by Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Randolph. No further comment? Any further comments? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Willie to approve, second. With a waiver. Again, a motion by Commissioner Willie to approve with a waiver, second by Commissioner Davis. This will require 8 votes. Please vote.
Nine yeas and 0 nays. Motion carries with waiver.
Thank you. 2017-713-MSP, a 176.03 acre parcel into parcels A through D, Ward 2, District 3. Owner Bullock et al., surveyor John G. Cummings and Associates, Inc., Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable James Red Thompson. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The owner is proposing to create 4 very large parcels from a 176.03 acre parent parcel. However, Mathis Road does not meet the minimum road frontage requirements of 300 feet for parcel B. However, since Mathis Road terminates at the beginning of the property and all proposed parcels are 39+ acres each in size, the staff has no objection to a waiver of this requirement. However, it's the staff understanding that the owner wishes to delay the construction of the private drive, since the primary reason for the minor subdivision is to donate the parcels to immediate family members who do not plan on developing their respective properties in the near-term future. Historically, the commission has granted a delay in the construction of private drive requirements due to the circumstances as described above, subject to the private road being constructed prior to the issuance of any building permits within the minor subdivision, and subject to a special notation placed on the survey plat stating same. Therefore, if the commission decides to approve this request, it should be subject to the following stipulations. A waiver of the time constraints in which to construct the private drive is needed, which would require 2/3 majority vote of the full membership of the commission, 8 members, in order to approve. B, a notarized hold harmless letter should be executed by the owner in favor of the parish, indemnifying same from any potential liability or litigation in the future relative to the delay in the construction of the private drive until, prior to the issuance of any building permits. And C, a second waiver is needed if the commission decides to approve this requirement relative to the lot width issue on a public road, and a 2/3 majority vote of the full membership is required.
Thank you. Petitioner.
Wilson D. Bullock, 81105 Highway 1082, Bush, Louisiana.
And your reason for the request, sir.
My brother and sister and I, the 3 of us, own the 176 acres. It's also connected to our family homestead of 40 acres that we've lived on our entire life. The 176 acres we wish to divide amongst us 3 with a 4th parcel that will be held in common. We have no plans for development at all. Our reason for dividing it is just because we're reaching our 50s and we don't want to burden our children with this later in life. We're ready to subdivide or divide it into equal parcels between us 3.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Yeah, I'm real familiar with this piece of property. The family's been there forever, I think, and I move for approval with the two waivers.
Motion by Commissioner Willie to approve with the waivers. Commissioner Randolph.
And a second if you include the whole harmless.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just to clarify, approval subject to all staff comments? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Dougherty?
Yes, Ron, this is probably a question for y'all and maybe legal. Can we put a time limit on the delay of the construction of the private drive?
It's subject to them coming in for a building permit, so the road has to be constructed before anybody can file for a building permit.
Okay, then that does put a time limit on it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Council, any comments? Council, any comment? No. We have a motion by Commissioner Willie to approve pursuant to staff comments with the waivers, second by Commissioner Randolph. Please vote. It will take 8 votes to approve.
I'm missing 1 vote. Nine nays, 0 nays. Motion carries with waivers.
Thank you. 2017-714-MSP, Parcel C into Parcel C-1, C2, and C3, Ward 1, District 3. The owner, William and Patricia Blocher. Surveyor, LS Land Surveying, LLC. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable James Red Thompson. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Proposed parcels C1 and C2 do not meet the minimum 200-foot lot width requirement for the A1A zoning district. That's why the public hearing is required. The owner is proposing to create 3 parcels from a parent parcel C. From a technical standpoint, both parcels along Gottschalk Road do meet the required 200-foot minimum lot frontage requirement for the A1A zoning district. However, each are only approximately 4 feet short of that 200-foot requirement. Therefore, the staff does not have any objections to the proposed minor subdivision request, given that small distance. However, if the commission decides to approve this request, a waiver of the regulations are required relative to the lot width issue, and a 2/3 majority vote of full membership. 8 members is required in order to approve.
Thank you. Petitioner?
Yes, sir, William Blocher,
And just-
110 Bellington Avenue, Madisonville.
Thank you.
My
And-
mother and father bought this property, would donate to my sister and I to build houses on, for us to live in. Not for subdivision, just for us.
Okay,
That's about it.
thank you. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission.
Yes, thanks. I move for approval, so, with the waiver.
Motion by Commissioner Willie to approve, subject to the waivers. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Davis.
Mr. William, you say you and your sister are going to build houses on this property?
Yes, sir, we are.
The entrance off the Gottschalk Road, are you going to have one road
We
and
were-
share that?
We were talking about doing one road in the middle to
That
share.
would probably be more beneficial. That way you don't have too much confusion on the road being
be
that
great.
close apart. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any further comments? We have a motion by Commissioner Willie to approve with the waivers, second by Commissioner Randolph. Please vote.
Nine yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries with waivers.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Petitions or requests, we have none. Entering the Tammany Trace, we have none. Revocations, closing reviews, we have none. Re-subdivision reviews, we have none. Dormant subdivisions, we have none. Tentative subdivision reviews, we have none. Preliminary subdivision reviews, the one we had has been postponed. Final subdivision review, 2017-710-FP. Grand Oaks, Phase 2C, Ward 1, District 1. Developer owner, Trinity Developers. Engineer, Kelly McHugh and Associates, Inc. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Marty Dean. Staff?
Periodic inspections. Periodic inspections have been made by this office during construction. The final inspection was made on June 29, 2017. The inspection disclosed that all of the asphalt roads are constructed, road shoulders are constructed, and the roadside ditches need final grading. The following uncompleted items existed at the time of final inspection will be completed before the plats are signed. On the final plat, add the following note to the final plat: the rear and side lot swales for lots 71 through 81 shall be a private servitude for the homeowners to drain the rear yard. Fences, driveways, and any other structures placed in the private and rear side yard swales shall be down in a manner not to impede the flow of surface drainage. Revised restrictive covenant number 10 to state that the HOA will maintain the private drainage servitudes. The as-built ditch invert elevation of 18 conflicts with the culvert target invert elevation of 17.5 in front of lot 172. Revise this conflict. The as-built ditch invert elevation of 16.7 conflicts with the target invert elevation of 18 in front of lot 146. Revise the conflict. The as-built ditch invert elevation of 18.3 is 150 feet upstream of lot 135. Target culvert invert elevation of 18.4 needs to be revised. Target culvert invert elevations for lot 171, 2, and 3 are lower than the invert of the downstream culvert. Needs to be revised. Revise the date provided on the plan to reflect the as-built date. Provide an as-built invert elevation at every location where a proposed invert elevation is shown. All drainage servitudes shown on the as-built paving and drainage plan must be included on the final plat. All utility servitudes shown on the as-built sewer and water plan must be included on the final plat. Revise the plan to state as-built on the stormwater pollution prevention plan and signage plan. Revised note number 3 of the sign installation detail to state that white lettering on blue background. General comments: utility trench bedding test results are required. Blue reflectors must be installed at the fire hydrants where needed. Fire hydrants are needed to be painted in accordance with Ordinance 499. A negative bacteriological report relative to the construction of the project's water system is required. A letter of acceptance and responsibility for the perpetual maintenance and operation of the water and sewer system is required from the utility provider. Should the Planning Commission approve the request for final approval, a warranty obligation will be required for the infrastructure in the amount of 2,480 linear feet at $22 per linear foot for $54,600 for a period of 2 years. Mandatory developmental fees are required as follows: road impact fees, $1,077 per lot times 48 lots for $51,696. Drainage impact fees, $1,114 per lot times 48 lots for $53,471. Fees are due before subdivision plats can be signed. The subdivision is within the urban growth boundary line. Staff recommends approval of the proposed final subdivision request, subject to the developer complying with all comments and no plats to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed. Revised drawings will not be accepted prior to July 11, 2017 Planning Commission meeting to ensure that any additional comments established at the meeting can be incorporated into the revised plans.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Marone on behalf of Trinity Developers in Grand Oaks Phase 2C. This is actually the last phase of Grand Oaks subdivision. With regards to the comments that Mr. Watson just read into the record, the final plat and as-built plat changes are just that. They are all plat modifications, many of which are done. There was some additional field work that is required to verify and remove the conflicts referenced in items 3 through 6, and also to address item 8. That is a little bit of surveying work that is in the process of being done. As far as any actual field work, other than the survey work to easy for me to say, to resolve those conflicts, are the items under the general comments. The blue reflectors are in, and the hydrants have been repainted. They were erroneously painted red. Your ordinance requires that they be painted yellow, and we were able to complete that before the meeting this evening. With regards to the utility trench bedding test result, I was provided with an email from Mr. Magner in the engineering office, and I'll ask Jay to correct me if I'm mistaken about this, but my understanding based on that email is that the utility trench bedding test results are not required on this particular phase of this project because the utilities were in place before the proof roll was done. So I don't believe that that is in fact an outstanding item based on that information that we've received. So we would respectfully request your approval. The plat revisions that are outstanding can be made within a week's time at the most, and there's no further field work to complete. So we would ask for your approval of Phase 2C, subject to the staff comments, understanding that no plats will be signed or filed until each of those comments are duly addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Marone.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Paul, regarding item 19, what's the situation on that? That we are not approved and about some question about a culvert? Sorry.
Wrong report.
Wrong
Item
report.
19.
You're looking at the wrong final.
Excuse me.
Okay.
On the wrong report.
Good, because I didn't have a 19. You had me stumped.
I was just
Being
testing
very
you, Paul.
proactive. Commissioner Randolph.
Mr. Morone, item 10, as it relates to the sewage and water plan, I heard you say that that was already in place in the first phase. There's no need to have any type of integration of that current treatment facility with this one? There's no need for have an additional treatment facility?
No, this phase will tie into the existing facility, so there will not be a new sewer treatment facility for this phase.
Okay.
It will tie into the existing lines, manholes, and lift stations, and it'll be pumped to the existing facility.
So the infrastructure that's for this phase will accommodate the current treatment facility that's already in place?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Jay, did you have any comment?
He is correct. The existing treatment plant has sufficient capacity for this phase.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis.
Yes, Paul?
Yes, sir.
So the only concern I have is the items 3 to 6 that you stated before. So you'll be able to resurvey the property, go out there and level it as need be, and then correct it and give it to the staff?
That's correct. That survey work was started. I can't tell you that it's absolutely completed, but I'm told that it will be completed shortly so that they can remove those conflicts.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Davis to approve. Commissioner Dougherty.
Paul, on the final plat, on the maintaining the private drainage servitudes and everything,
Yes.
y'all are normally pretty good on having mandatory dues. Is that the case in this phase?
Yes, sir. That is the case.
Okay, and Jay, you were very involved, I think, in the new signs and colors and everything for street markers and so forth. I live in Lake Village subdivision, Slidell, which is an old subdivision, and some of the new signs that are going in, the white lettering is not reflective. Is it not supposed to be reflective?
No, it should all be, have retroreflectivity.
Okay, because the blue is reflective, but the white is not.
Okay, we can check on that, but yeah, all the signs should
Okay,
have.
I'll
the
try
correct-
and get y'all a list, so that you don't have to go and go out at night and look at them, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lauren.
Yeah, Paul, I want to make sure that I understand exactly what the motion is. The motion is to approve, subject to all staff comments and all of the items on the list. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Randolph.
I'll second if no one is second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph, subject to all staff comments. Jay, any further comments? We have a motion by Commissioner Davis to approve, subject to all staff comments, second by Commissioner Randolph. Please vote.
Motion carries, subject to staff comments, 9-0.
2017-711-FP, Goodby Square, Phase 1, Ward 1, District 1. Developer owner, Lonesome Development LLC. Engineer, Kyle Associates LLC. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Marty Dean. Staff.
Inspections have been made by this office during construction, and the final inspection was made June 29, 2017. The inspection disclosed that all of the concrete roads are constructed and subsurface drainage is installed. The following uncompleted items existed at the time of final inspection will be completed before the plats are signed. Add to restrictive covenant number 7 that the HOA will be responsible for maintaining all private servitudes. Add a restrictive covenant stating the following: driveways on corners shall not be located any closer than 60 feet from a corner of property where two streets, right-of-ways intersect. The water system Goodby Square Phase 1 is tying into is Northridge. Please revise the final plat to depict this information. Revise the typical concrete entrance section legend to show the actual as-built pavement design. Revise the typical concrete roadway section to include a legend with as-built information. The plat and the paving and drainage plan do not show the same servitudes between lots 18 and 19. Curve C8 does not meet the minimum required width of 25 feet for a public access servitude to the detention pond. Certified that the cut volume from the pond mitigates the fill required to bring all lots up to the 100-year flood elevation. The private drainage servitude around the detention pond must be removed if the parish is to maintain the pond. Remove the language regarding alleys from the dedication statement, as alleys are not part of this development. Remove references to sidewalks from the restrictive covenants, as sidewalks are not part of this development. The outfall drainage servitude is located outside of the footprint of the subdivision and must be resolved. Provide upstream and downstream inverts for the culvert installed at the entrance of the subdivision. The weir structure and location, as well as the outfall location, are not in accordance with the approved drainage plan dated 9/22/2016. Revise the hydro report to confirm that the pond and weir meet St. Tammany Parish drainage requirements as constructed. Variations greater than 1 foot between the as-built invert elevations and the proposed invert elevations were observed in multiple locations. CI number 5, 25, 23, for example. Revise the hydro report using the as-built invert elevations to confirm that the drainage infrastructure meets St. Tammany Parish drainage requirements as constructed. The outfall drainage servitude was not approved in the preliminary plans and is located outside of the boundary of the subdivision. This must be resolved. Provide additional clarification showing how the pond berm connects to the weir, including the slope of the ground from the weir to the top of the bank elevation, which is 37.5. Provide as-built elevations for the weir. This weir design was not approved. Where was the culvert that was approved? Provide sufficient elevation points in the pond to show the pond size, top of bank elevations, pond bottom elevations, pond slopes, pond design, and pond design are in accordance with the approved drainage plan and hydro study. Identify what unit of measure is being used for all dimensions called out in the reinforcing detail and detail 2. Provide drainage directional arrows on each lot for the development. There's a note that states final as-built data pending. Approval of the plans, of the as-built plans will require all as-built data to be finalized. Label sheet RD1 as the as-built utility plan. Revise the erosion control plan to indicate the physical location where the SWIP will be kept on site. Attach the stormwater map and include the pathway from the discharge point to the ultimate outfall at the lake. Municipal addresses must be included on the final plat. Provide an as-built signage plan. Provide the engineer and surveyor stamp on required plans. Fire hydrants need to be painted the correct color scheme. Base test results, concrete test results, utility trench bedding test results, and utility backfill test results are required. A negative bacteriological report relative to the construction of the project's water system is required. A letter of acceptance and responsibility for the perpetual maintenance and operation of the water and sewer system is required from the utility provider. Should the Planning Commission approve the request for final approval, a warranty obligation will be required for the infrastructure in the amount of 2,346 linear feet at $25 per linear foot for $58,700 for a period of 2 years. Mandatory developmental fees are required as follows. Road impact fee, $1,077 per lot times 73 lots for $78,621. Drainage impact fees, $1,114 per lot times 73 lots for $81,322. Fees are due before the subdivision plats can be signed. The subdivision is within the urban growth boundary line. All staff comments must be addressed before final plats can be signed. Revised drawings will not be accepted prior to the July 11, 2017 Planning Commission meeting to ensure that any additional comments established at the meeting can be incorporated into the revised plans. The Department of Development Planning has no comments.
Thank you. Mr. Shane.
Good evening. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm. I represent the owner and developer, Lonesome Development LLC, in connection with this request for final subdivision approval for Goodby Square Phase 1. The vast majority of all of the comments that have been read have in fact been satisfied. If submitted, they probably have not the staff has not had a chance to review those items. There are some, I think, significant items, though, that bear some discussion, and I'd like to go through those with you. All of the comments as it relates to modification to language on the plat, addition of language to the plat, et cetera, we agree with every staff comment, and those items have been done. I think that you would be interested to know that under the final plat requirements, Department of Engineering, item 7, that 25-foot servitude has in fact been provided. Also, as to item 9, the pond will in fact be maintained by the parish, so we will remove the private drainage servitude around the pond. Item 12, and also if you drop down to item 16 under the as-built, those are addressing the same issue. The outfall for this subdivision is on abutting land. There is a drainage servitude that I have drafted, and we have reached an agreement with the adjoining owner, and we recognize that we will need to present to staff the signed drainage servitude agreement, which allows the water to leave our site near the southwesterly corner and get into an existing ditch and drain down to the Highway 190 right-of-way. As with regard to item 15 under the as-built comments, the variations I understand are probably due to the times that the readings were made. There had been excessive rain. There was water still in the elevations, or I should say it was difficult to determine what you could see because of the amount of water. So we have in the process of getting those readings updated, and we will provide that, of course, to the engineers and understand that we must meet their standard. With regard to the weir design, we are in fact have modified the weir design that is typically used, and that design, as I appreciate it, obviously will soon be tendered to Mr. Watson for his review. Apparently, initially, there was discussion of using a weir. Then I think we went to a culvert approach. That approach now has been abandoned, and they're going back to the weir design. And we recognize that staff needs to see that design and approve it. But I'm told that that matter will be forthcoming. I think also of significance under the general comments, item 31, those results are now available. 32, the report is available. And again, I think, as I said earlier, all of the comments, say by way of example, to repaint the fire hydrants, et cetera, we acknowledge the validity of those comments and understand that those things must be done before the plats are signed and recorded. I do have my engineer with me this evening, Mr. Powell of Kyle & Associates, so that if any of you or staff have questions that go beyond knowledge that I have, we'll be glad to address those.
Thank you, Mr. Shane.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Dougherty.
Yes, Jeff, final plat, item 1 there, the HOA maintaining the private servitudes, assuming that you do have mandatory homeowners fees?
Yes, we will have a homeowners association, we'll have mandatory dues, and we will maintain those areas other than the pond.
Okay. I was a little bit disappointed in the number of items on the punch list. Usually Kyle and Associates does a better job and have these down to just I'm going to call it a bare minimum, and I was really disappointed when I saw almost 3 pages of punch list items, but looks like everything's pretty much in line right now, and I'd move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Dougherty to approve. A second or any other comments? Commissioner Davis.
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Davis. Any further comments? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Dougherty to approve, second by Commissioner Davis. Please vote.
Motion carries 9 yeas, 0 nays.
Proposed amendments to Ordinance 499. An ordinance to amend the St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinances, Appendix B of Chapter 40, Subdivision Regulatory Ordinance Number 499, specifically Section 45-045.0, Minor Subdivision Review. Staff.
Mr. Chairman, the Parish Council, Mr. Tanner in particular, recently proposed an ordinance, put it in for introduction, for us to consider some changes to the minor subdivision administrative process and trying to address some concerns, these ongoing concerns of stuff, kind of thing that we meet on quite a bit and you see on a pretty regular basis that based upon the history of giving waivers and looking at it and some of the other requirements, whether or not we should consider those administrative. He proposed some extensive changes, which you can see in the copy that you have. Anything that has a shading to it was something that he had actually stricken out as possibly removing and wanted us to look at it. When you combined all of these together, it made some dramatic changes that after extensive discussions with him and over the last probably 6 months, I didn't think it was his intent. And so he and I sat down, went through his real goals, and essentially he asked me to attempt to meet those goals. He has reviewed this, and I have correspondence from his staff that he concurs with the changes as proposed. Essentially, what the proposal does is it increases those number of lots that can access a public road through another lot by a servitude from 2 to 5. So it allows some of the situations that you saw here tonight where you have family members on larger lots being able to go and establish private roads and going through each other's process without having to come to you for a waiver. It does exempt minor subdivisions above the urban growth boundary with a minimum 1 acre lot size from requiring the engineered drainage plan and a 25% reduction. That's for 1 acre lots and larger, nothing smaller than that. And what we will do is we will look at the drainage review at the time of the permit. With 1 acre lots, we feel we can keep people from draining onto their neighbor's property. The limitation of 5 at a time and the other limitations of minor subdivision, we don't think this is going to create a major problem as far as going forward without a public hearing process and without full engineered plans. The third thing that it does is it allows for additional lots to be created from an original parcel as long as the total number of lots don't exceed 5. State laws allows you to divide administratively a parcel into 5 lots through the administrative process established by the parish. The way our ordinance reads now, if I came in and divided 100 acres into 2 50-acre lots, I could not come in and make one of those 50 acres 225s, or a total of 3 lots. This will allow us to go to 5 lots from the same piece of property. So we're still in conformance with state law. There was some discussion about removing that and allow people to keep subdividing over and over and over again administratively. And when we explained potentially what that could do if manipulated, that we could end up with 25, 30-acre lot subdivisions on private roads with no drainage plan. And so that's the kind of discussion I had with Mr. Tanner, talking about some of the issues that all of his proposals together would kind of create, not any individual one. What the draft did maintain, what he agreed that we didn't want to do, is we maintain the limitation of the number of lots for minor subdivision, administrative minor subdivision, to 5 in accordance with state law. We maintain flag lots as an option. I think he misunderstood what the purpose of a flag lot was. We maintain the 1 acre minimum lot size above the urban growth boundary for something to go through without a hearing. So if somebody wants to come in for 1/4 acre lots, even if they meet zoning, they have to come to you and hold a hearing on those. And it maintains the public hearing requirements for the specific exceptions to the basic regulations that we have today. And so based upon that, we think we've tweaked the ordinance again. Obviously, if we've overstepped our bounds or we haven't gone far enough, you'll see us again after we attempt to utilize these and see how it services those citizens, where you see a lot of it. You saw 3 tonight for different reasons, people dividing up their family lots. And what we want to do is just make sure we don't end up with people doing commercially developing subdivisions without all the criteria. But on large lots, family petitions, that we try to accommodate them as well as possible while maintaining the protections for the other residents. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Fontenot, the staff does recommend this?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to speak in favor of this request?
Bill McHugh with the St. Tammany Farmer. Would you just clarify for me, so I make sure I know what's changed? The grayed out areas that are not underlined are not part of the change, is that
No,
correct?
that's existing language.
That's existing language?
Yes, that was
that's-
something he asked us to consider.
Okay. So the only changes are those that are underlined?
The places that are underlined.
Thank you.
It's stricken out.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone in the public who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Sydney, this ordinance starts off giving a description of urban growth boundary line. Does it change that line at all? 'Cause I didn't see an attached map, so.
It doesn't change that line at all.
Okay,
That's
thank
the
you.
line, and actually, we used to have 2 or 3 lines over the years, and we have 1 line for minor subdivisions, for a lot of record subdivisions, anything and everything, that is a single line in our ordinances now.
Okay. I move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Willie to approve. Commissioner Dougherty.
Yes, I'll second it. Sydney, whenever you start subdividing some of these large parcels, where do we get into the drainage so that it does not affect the surrounding properties that are not owned by the owners of the large parcel that's being subdivided?
When somebody comes in for the building permit, what we're running into a lot, very seldom are we dealing with just 1 acre in this kind of situation. We're dealing with 50, 75 acres sometimes, and we're having people do 25% reduction engineered plans on large lots like that. What we will do is look at the placement of the lot. The placement of fill has a lot to do with it. And you'd be surprised where we have issues with flood zones and critical drainage areas that we are having people, and they don't understand it, and it's a constant struggle to explain it to them, why we're having you shoot elevations, because you can't bring more fill when you live at 100 foot. And you have a base flood elevation of 98 feet, and your property is 95 feet, so you can't bring 3 foot of fill when you're 100 feet above sea level. So I think when we originally did the minor subdivision, then you may remember this, we used to have family exemptions, and families could divide basically any way they wanted. And it wasn't really a family exemption, it was an exemption of so many a year. And, you know, there were issues being created, and it was being manipulated by some of the development community. And they started stripping out streets. And one of the rural councilmen, specifically Mr. Thompson, said, we need to find a fix. So we created the minor subdivision, and we said, no more family exemptions. They need to come and be checked make sure they comply with the standards. And so we've tweaked this back and forth, trying to find that balance. And that's what I see this as, trying to find that balance. But if you're over an acre, there's a pretty good chance most people and most houses are going to be able to fill their property appropriately, have adequate swaling around their property through the subdivision review process, and drain into an adequate drainage system. It's going to be rare that we're going to have somebody who's not going to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Randolph?
Item B2C. When the single parcel to be divided, et cetera, you explained the urban growth boundary line. Where is that physically?
That is a line roughly, because it kind of just zigzags. It comes from Pearl River along Highway 36. Before it gets to Abita Springs, it goes around Abita Springs. And then it comes in right about Bennett Bridge Road area. I think it's actually, it's on the section line, which is just to the north of Bennett Bridge Road, north or south of Bennett Bridge Road, and cuts across. So basically, anything extreme north Covington down, Abita Springs down, and Highway 36 down is below the urban growth boundary. That's where we really see most of the growth happening. That line is where we do impact fees on single-family residential, whereas in this kind of situation, we don't do it on these types of subdivisions. If something comes to you where we have a full-blown subdivision coming in, like a Goodby Square, that would be subject to impact fees because they are coming to you. But if it's a minor subdivision that's not going through that full-blown process, they're not subject to impact fees because it's 2 or 3 people on 50 acres building a house, and there's not really an impact on the roads and major impact on drainage. Now, the money can't be spent up there either. But we have this line where most of our intense zoning is south of that line. Mm-hmm. Most of our subdivisions are south of that line. The stuff north of the line is basically remaining rural in kind of this trying to keep it preserved state, the Folsom Bush type atmosphere, Barker's Corner, Lee Road area.
Okay. I have another question, Mr. Chair. Item 2A, you have lined out all of which have direct frontage on a public road, got that. However, on 2C, you have more than parcels may be divided into no more than 2 lined out, but you're increasing it 5 parcels per minor subdivision request, and it goes on, the front road frontage requires must meet the front road. How would you identify which of those 5 lots will meet the front road requirement?
That is a situation where you have property stacked behind, where you only have 300 foot of frontage, but it's 1,500 feet deep. One of those, the first lot would have to meet, if the zoning requirement is a 300 foot frontage, that first lot would have to meet it, or they'd have to come to you to get a waiver. The 2 lots, the 297 foot lots, 197 foot lots or 196 foot lots tonight would have still had to come back to you. If they were 200, they wouldn't have to come back because at least one of those lots fronted on the public road with adequate right-of-way.
Okay.
The whole concept is not to have people squeezing together. Part of the large lots is not just the size of the parcel, but also the spacing between houses. And so that's why anything below that minimum lot size for that zoning district has to come to you to make sure that the houses are spaced properly along the road.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Lauren?
Yes. Sydney, under first page of the item, kind of reinforce what was said earlier. Under A, in the packet that we were given, it defines an urban growth boundary line. And in the first sentence or so, it says, and depicted on attached map. If you go down further, it starts defining that line with all the thенses. That doesn't mean much to me. When I can't picture thence this far and then thence this far. What I'm saying, it would have been very helpful if we had had a map.
And we can get you a map.
That would have been very helpful.
Because it was actually attached to, or it was actually attached in the original ordinance when we passed this originally back in 2005, 2004. When we originally do that, that's when it says attached map, that's when we established the line. So we can get you that just so you can see it.
I think we're all in favor of what you're
And we'll remind
trying.
Ron to put this kind of stuff in there.
I'm not picking on Ron now. I'm just trying to say it would be very
Oh, I
helpful
understand, absolutely.
to be able to visualize where this line is. Because this is going to be, pretty important.
Oh, it's a very
important.
significant line. There are at least 3 or 4 regulations, major differences in philosophy based
Yeah.
upon that line.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure that you all get a copy of it. Good way to remind you of where it's located.
That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Commissioner Davis.
Sidney, the property above the urban growth line, right now, as it stands, is majority A1?
Yeah, the vast majority of it.
So now, in this process here, we're automatically giving them the right to go ahead and make it A2 as a minimum if they want to?
No.
Okay.
What it does is, if you have a property that is A3 or A4, a remnant of 1993 rezoning, if you want to do lots that are less than an acre, you have to come to the commission for those.
You have to.
If you want to divide them into more than an acre, you would be able to do it administratively. Even though by right, you can still go smaller, but it's that point at which we don't require the public hearing, is the 1 acre.
So if I had a 50-acre parcel, a family parcel, north of this boundary line, I could realistically
You can do
make
5,
that into 50 parcels,
not without
coming to us.
Not without coming through, number 1, to make sure you have the right zoning, and then number 2, to make sure you go through full subdivision review.
So
This is limited
it's not
to
changing the zoning then, is what you're
Correct.
saying?
Correct.
That's my,
This is
was my
limited to
question.
5 lots also.
Right.
If you have 50 acres and you're in A1 zoning, you
Right.
can make 1 acre, one lot, 5 acres. The rest of the 45, you could make into, would be 11 point something acres lots. The smallest lot you can make would still be a 5-acre lot. Now, if you have A3 zoning, which is half-acre density, and you don't want to come to a hearing, you can make a 1-acre lot. And the other
understand.
49,
I understand.
you can make 4 more.
Okay, and the other thing you mentioned, since it goes through administratively, we won't have to be concerned with drainage? You said something about the drainage.
We will handle the drainage at building permit. What was happening is we were having people with, 40 acres coming in, dividing it into 5 pieces, and having to have an engineer come in, an engineer on a 50-acre parcel of property with all large lots, engineer how you're going to handle the flow and creating ponds for 25% reduction when you're putting a 2,000 square foot house on a 10-acre parcel.
Right.
The drainage impact is not significant enough to warrant full engineered and 25% reduction.
Unless we get to the point where everything starts developing north of the urban.
At 5-acre parcels, it'd be hard to do that, but
Okay.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
But then you're coming in full reviews also.
Right.
You're coming in for full-blown reviews. Remember, these are 1-acre lot size, out of 1,000 acres,
Right.
you can only make 5 parcels out of that 1,000 acres administratively.
Got it.
If you
Thank
make
you.
number 6,
Yeah,
you're going full-blown process.
okay.
Commissioner Richard?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Sidney, you've covered this, but I just want to be crystal clear on it. When we talk about the 50 acres or make it 100 acres and they break it up into 5 parcels, is there any kind of time limit where they're not going to be able to come back and take one of those parcels and break it up again? In other words, I think you get one bite at the apple, or can they, 10
State
years
law
from now
limits,
yeah,
state law limits it to 5 parcels out of the original
out
parcel.
of the original parcel, anything anybody
Correct.
wanted to do after that, they'd have to come back.
Number
before
6, in 50 years, unless state law changes, we'd have to catch it in 50 years, but in 50 years, it would.
Understood. Just wanted to make sure that was crystal clear when that previous question was asked. Thank you.
And that's the situation now. And but the situation now is actually, if you come in and you make 3, you can't come back next week and make 1 more. Because the way the ordinance is written, it says you get 1 bite administrative the next time you go to a hearing.
Very good. Thank you.
Commissioner Randolph?
Yes, one last question as it relates to F. And we're talking specifically with the urban growth boundary. So am I to understand that if a resident have 1 acre of property, 1 acre, they do not have to come before the commission to discuss or to even have any discussion about drainage? That will be handled internally by the Department of Engineering?
Right now, they don't have to come to the commission under the minor subdivision.
Okay.
What is being removed is the requirement that they meet the same, I'm gonna say extreme, but it's not really extreme, the enhanced standards that normal subdivisions have to go through, 150 lot subdivision, 6 lot subdivisions, where you have to reduce the water flowing from the property by the rate of water from the property by 25%. It will take that requirement out. And we will look at the drainage impacts on a case-by-case basis at building permit to make sure they don't impact their neighbors. It basically removes a lot of the engineering requirement as on a situation like you saw 3 times tonight, where families are dividing up their property. Without that relief, they would have to come in and do a 25% reduction on the guys that had, with someone 30 and 40 acres tonight. They would have to do an engineering plan to figure out how they're going to drain that and do a 25% reduction. When you're talking 2,000, 3,000 square foot house, in most cases, on 40, 50 acres of property.
Are there any other comments, discussion items? No, we've got a motion by Commissioner Willie to approve, second by Commissioner Dougherty. Please vote.
Motion carries 9 yeas and 0 nays.
Old business, 2017-612-MSP, a 127.726 acre parcel into lots 1 through 5, Ward 10, District 6. The owner, Bullock et al., Surveyor Kelly McHugh and Associates, Inc., Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Richard Tanner. Request by owner to pay a drainage fee in lieu of detention. Staff?
Honorable Commissioners, the developer's representative has requested that a fee in lieu of detention be approved for the above captioned project. See attached email dated June 20, 2017. In accordance with Ordinance 499, Section 40.061.01, Hydrologic Study and Plan, Part 3A, the Department of Engineering accepts the proposed waiver. Since the project is within the lower 2/3 of the Abita River drainage basin, see attached plat for Hickory Estates. Therefore, fee in lieu of detention is recommended for the approval in the amount of 18.41 acres times $1,500 per acre for $27,615 based upon A1 zoning. Fees are due before the plats will be signed.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Marone on behalf of the developer of Hickory Estates. This is a large parcel, small development up on Allen and Low Davis Road in the northern part of the parish above the growth boundary line that you all were just talking about. The property in this area is very, very hilly, a lot of elevation changes. It really doesn't lend itself to classic detention. And since we're in the lower two-thirds of the basin, we would respectfully request your approval to pay the fee in lieu of that detention, which is allowed under 499. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that any of the commissioners may have about our request.
Thank you, Mr. Marone. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Yes, that request is appropriate. I move our approval.
Motion by Commissioner Willie to approve. Commissioner Davis.
Question for Paul. These 5 lots, is it?
Yes, it is.
These 5 lots? So with all the hilliness and stuff you were talking about, so where does the water drain?
The water will actually, it depends on each lot. There's that much elevation change here. So some of it is going to be coming to the road. Some of it it's going in a variety of different directions, which is why classic detention wouldn't have made sense. One of the things our engineer, Mr. McHugh, determined is that you would have to dot the property with little ponds to catch the water because it's moving in so many different directions.
Is there any sort of drainage ditch or anything around this area, or will the water generally remain on the property and just get absorbed?
It'll generally remain on the property or go exactly where it's going now. It'll get into the lower areas and make their way. This development is really surrounded on 4 sides. It's a square. There are four roadways that are around the perimeter. And ultimately, that which does not simply stay on the property, much of which would make it to those roadside ditches.
Yeah, well, since obviously the houses probably won't be that large on such a large piece of property, I think that's appropriate. Thank you.
Commissioner Lauren.
Make a motion, I'll second the motion.
Second by Commissioner Lauren. Commissioner Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jay, in our packets, it looks like there was some communication between you and Paul. He had requested maybe a review of the calculation. Has that been resolved as far as the actual impact fee?
Yes, that's been reviewed.
Okay. And so the request is not coming before us, it's as it's indicated?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further comments, questions? We have a motion by Commissioner Willie to approve, second by Commissioner Lauren. Please vote.
Motion carries 9 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. Is there any new business to come before the commission? If not, motion to adjourn.
All right, I think we survived, huh?